Why, hello there, and welcome to the stream, where here we today are going to talk more video games, and Twitch, and other related assorted things. Let me get into the Discord.
It's Pagio's stream. I don't...
Yeah, dude, it's my stream. You're dang right.
Live pet.
Are we live?
Yeah, we are live.
Oh
boy.
You poking my pet, dude?
I guess? What the hell is this thing? It's a floating head.
It's my pet, dude.
What the hell are we...
I don't know what we're talking. I'm very confused.
Scroll down. Scroll underneath the stream and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about.
Fine.
This thing is horrifying.
It very much is.
Hey.
Oh, it's awake.
So, anyway, we're here with the
Gigapet.
the second episode of the Fleep, the Fourth Wall Enclave podcast. Joining me is my stellar co-host over here, Emperor Grinnar.
Nope, I'm too busy petting the Gigapet. Go on without me.
And
We've already lost one. This is good.
we have two regulars here. They have 100% attendance so far. We got Derpy.
Do I keep petting this thing? Oh.
And the average Gatsby.
This has just turned into a petting stream.
I'm on Grin's page. I'm definitely poking this thing. Wait, it has 213,000 XP. Does that mean 213 times people have clicked on this thing?
No. That means
That would be a shock.
That's impressive.
it's like other things in Factory.
Oh, okay. I see.
It gets like 30 XP every time.
Yeah, pet the cacona. Pet him.
That's still a lot if it's 12,000 and only 30 per click.
That's what I'm saying.
And there's a cooldown.
I'm close to getting the next level up so I can get my pet to turn into the forehead emote, so... Anyway, we here with the Fleep. The Fleep. And it's been a while.
Ooh.
It was about 3 weeks, and
Yeah, who are you people again?
We got lost in the forest.
I don't know. I just kind of like wandered in here off the street.
we got the same people as last time, but you know, nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with a little bit of the same. Well, I mean, a change of scenery is always nice, but nothing wrong with the same at the same time. So anyway, I'm just gonna get right into the news, and by that I mean,
Oh no.
by that I mean we're gonna start off with the games that have released in the time since the last podcast. So we did the last one on the last day of January, the 31st, and it's been 3 weeks since then. A lot of games have released. Anyone have any to shout out that they remember between this time?
I don't even know what day it is.
I mean, I've just been playing games I got off the Steam sale, so...
That's exactly what I was fixing to say. There's like 2 games that I've purchased off the Steam sale, and otherwise I didn't realize that it was already the 21st of February, so...
Yeah, this month has gone by very fast.
January lasted forever. This has been like a week worth of February, and I'm like, oh, alright, well, here comes March.
Oh, well, I guess we'll just start off. Grin, you'll be happy to know that... Wait, I said this the same thing last time, and I flubbed it up. I was going to say, it's a Final Fantasy XIV, the Zodiac Age, and then I realized it's Final Fantasy XII as I'm reading it, and I'm like, God damn it.
Oh, I'm still so
Is that going to be an ongoing joke of, oh, there's this new Final Fantasy game coming out. Grin, you might be, oh, no, it's not the one I'm thinking of.
Yeah, it's Final Fantasy XII, the Zodiac Age, released on February 1st. Not
Final
14.
Fantasy 20, it's fine.
Yeah, something like that. And then also on the 1st was the Switch ports from the was in the Steam World Dig, which I mentioned last time as well. On the 2nd, EA Sports UFC 3 came out. And then on the 6th was the Shadow of the Colossus remake, and that's it for the first week of February. So, did no one here pick up the Shadow of the Colossus remake?
I didn't, but I know a lot of people
Unfortunately not.
ordered it, and I'm actually surprised that they didn't charge $60 for it.
Yeah.
Could
Wait, how much did they charge for it?
40, I believe.
Oh
Yeah,
wow, that's
that's
awesome.
You know, that's actually really cool.
Yeah.
Honestly, that's the sweet spot I wish games would sit in more frequently.
Yeah, I agree with
Not
that.
like $12 or
Hey, that's
Okay.
what Steam sale is for.
I would love for things to
I'd like-
be free. Is that
yeah.
what you're wanting?
I'd
me
like
to
99-cent games on the Steam store.
Yeah.
well, Average was going on a rant about how Slay the Spire is some weird number.
Actually, I accidentally did buy a game for a very weird number, and I think I accidentally ripped off the developers because they made a mistake.
say? Oh.
Yeah.
Was it a Steam thing?
Oh.
Like they
Yeah, during the
accidentally-
Steam sale.
Yeah.
I got this game called Wuppa, which I actually beat, but it was 54 cents when I bought it, and I played it. And I'm like, hey guys, you should play this game. It's really fun. And like, it's $5.40, not 54 cents. I'm like, oh no, what have I done?
Yeah, what was
Yeah.
a good game, but a good old game. Anyway,
That
this
was
is
fun.
this is why I wish we could have had Genesik on the stream, because as far as I remember, he played it. He's the only one.
He's played every rendition of it.
Of
Gosh,
Shadow Colossus.
oh, okay.
that's like a game I really want to play. The only time I've ever played it was like at 5 minutes at my local science museum because they were doing an exhibit on video games, and that was there.
Yeah, there's actually a in one of the cities nearby, there's a thing called the Strong Museum of Play, and they have like video games there all the time.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, my
cool.
science museum, OMSI, has done like 2 really great video game exhibits.
Well, that's just great. Video game as an art form.
Yeah, was super fun.
Well, anyway, as we're moving on to the next week of February, on February 8th, released the first expansion for Civilization 6, the Rise and Fall expansion. I don't know if anyone here plays any of the Civ games.
I don't think I've played a Civ game since like the second or third one.
I'm
I have
awful.
not delved into this Civ
Okay.
experience.
I have
Really?
I have so many friends who play Civilization and all the other games like that, and I am awful at those games, and I openly accept that I am awful at those games. And they're like, "Oh, Gatsby, you should buy it and play with us. We have big games with like several people." I'm like, I know where I stand. I know what I do.
Well,
The biggest thing I know about the Civ games is that Gandhi has like an aggressive rating of 2
Oh,
or
that-
something,
yeah.
and then when you go below that, so when you dip into negatives, the game can't really understand what the negative means, so it maximizes it, and that's why he usually goes like full nuclear war.
Calm down, Gandhi.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they had that in the. Apparently, that was something that was present in the original game, and they just said, "You know what? That's hysterical. Why don't we just keep that?"
I actually love that.
Yeah, it's pretty funny.
so anyway, moving right along the games list. Next we have Dragon Quest Builders, which is ported to the Switch on the 9th, followed by Seven Deadly Sins: Knights of Britannia, also coming out on the 9th, which is based off of an Netflix-only anime, I think. Then we have...
Oh, I kind of remember that. It has the same name as Muse album.
Then we have Under Night in Birth EXE Late ST. I don't know what the fuck that is.
What?
In Birth. Wait a minute. Isn't that a?
Let me
That
see.
sounds like a Kingdom Hearts game.
No. It's
Yeah, you're not wrong.
It's a visual novel.
It is indeed.
I'm only familiar with that because of a friend of mine.
It's like a visual
but
novel with some
also
fighting elements. It
Familiar
looks
with
like.
that because they're going to be one of the 4 groups that are in the Blaze Blue Cross Tag Battle
Okay.
coming out later on this year.
Oh, we talked about that.
Yeah.
Last time.
Gonna have to pay for it, or you're not gonna have to pay for it? That's the question.
Anyway, next Crossing Souls, February 13th. I've heard some good stuff about that.
Which one's that again?
Crossing Souls. It's the next game in the Souls series by Bandai Namco. No,
Oh,
not actually. It's a joke.
Oh, aw.
why you gotta troll us, man?
I was going to say Bandai Namco. Doubt.
I was like, when did that happen?
Bandai. What is it? What are they called?
From Software.
From Software. But aren't they owned by Bandai? That's the thing.
Bandai is
No.
publishing for them.
Bandai is just the
Ooh,
publisher.
I like the look of this game though.
Yeah, Atlas originally published Demon Souls. So.
Right.
I've not heard of this game, but it looks pretty.
Yeah, I've heard good stuff about it. I haven't really seen anything about it though. I've seen like one person stream it, and it's like some kind of puzzle game, fighting game,
Oh, I love puzzle
kind
games.
of thing. So yeah.
So wait, it's not the Mortal Kombat puzzle fighters?
No, I don't think so. But moving on, something we'll probably end up talking about later. Dynasty Warriors 9 came out on February 13th. Do some.
I like a lot of those games.
Well.
Some of
Boy,
those
will we have
games
some-
are really good.
Boy, will we have some stuff to talk about later. Then.
Yes, we do.
Next is the Fall 2 Unbound. I don't know what the Fall 1 that is bound is.
The Fall 1
Fall
bound.
is
Yeah.
The Fall is actually an amazing point-and-click game. It's super fun.
Well, now there's a second one, so here you go.
Yeah, I've been looking forward to that for quite a while. Pretty much after I beat the first one like 2 years ago, I've been looking forward to that.
Okay. So the sequel to The Fall Bound has come out. Next is something that we'll also definitely be talking about later on the show. Kingdom Come Deliverance, also released on February 13th. Which we will get into the meaty subject of that one later. But then after that we have a port for Owlboy to all the consoles. So that's good. Right. Owlboy's
I
a
keep forgetting that's actually a thing.
indie darling, yeah. Then The Longest 5 Minutes came out. And, oh boy, I'm willing to bet that the game's longer than 5 minutes.
But it is the longest 5 minutes,
That is
so
true.
who knows?
The entire game is just slow motion.
And then we have,
It's 5 minutes on another planet.
then we have an interesting title. Monster Energy Supercross, the official video game.
Oh, as opposed to the unofficial game they
Yeah.
released earlier this year.
On the iPhone.
Yeah, but I believe it is a game about Monster Energy and, like, motorbikes,
Energy
like dirt bikes. Yeah, the energy drink. And, like, dirt
Wow.
bikes stuff, so...
I mean,
Yay, another game about energy drinks.
that's what I've always wanted.
Then we have, oh, no, go on, Grin.
I mean, it could be worse. They could make another weird action-adventure game based on Skittles. That
Or
was
the
a thing.
Burger
Excuse
King
me, what?
mascot.
Oh, I'm
There's
familiar with
this game,
I'm familiar with the Burger King one. Oh,
Oh, Sneak King
Darkest-
2, when?
Darkest Sky or whatever the hell it was about collecting Skittles, and it was supposed to be like witty and stuff like that, but it was just not. It was
Oh, and you gotta add that to my games of I must play.
It's pretty cringy with the humor.
Good.
Being just stupid. It's not like cringy in like any form of witticism. It's just the opposite. It's just dumb.
Good, a good game to torture
Like, one of
people
the
with.
jokes,
Yeah.
like there's this thing where they have to like decipher something that's written down, and it's like, oh no, it's written in backwards language. I'm like, done.
That was your breaking point.
Okay.
I was
I can't believe
kind of just numb up to that point.
we talked this long because I mentioned a Monster Energy drink game came out. Anyway, next on the list is the newest in the Radiant Historia series, Radiant Historia Perfect Chronology. I don't actually know if that's a series or not, but, you know, I'm assuming it is because it's an Atlas game for the 3DS. So I'm assuming that it is part of a series. Could be wrong, though. Next is the Secret of Mana remake that came out on February 15th. Which you can probably talk a little bit about later as well.
Yeah,
I have
probably.
seen absolutely nothing about it.
Same, but
It was coming out,
I'm-
and then
Well, there's...
yeah, I'm also like kind of in the minority of the group who I don't really care for the game that much.
I don't think that's a minority, but we'll continue on.
Oh, good. It's just my group of friends all love that game, and I'm the only one who doesn't.
Yeah, there's Anyway, moving on. Bayonetta 1 and 2, the, like, ports over to the Switch, or, like, remasters, probably a little bit of that.
Yes.
I actually
Came
have
out on the 16th.
something to talk about that.
Yeah, I'm thinking of picking that one up, because I want to play 3 later when it comes out, but I haven't played either the
If
first.
you remember
Also-
to remind me, I'll tell you a little bit of information
Uh-huh.
about that happened.
Yeah.
Also, it's really funny when you scan a Animal Crossing amiibo in those games. You get a nice little message.
Well, coming out on the 16th was Fee, which, if you don't know what that is, that was the game released by EA, where it was like the little creature thing.
Yes, I actually do think I know that one.
Super descriptive.
I can't really describe. It's like an indie game that got picked up by EA, basically. It's a little strange.
So is it like Spore?
No, it's like it's almost like Limbo, I think.
Yeah, it's a little bit like Limbo. Here, let me see if I can get a picture of it for you guys.
Well,
it's basically one of those it looks really pretty games.
Yeah. And then we're on to the games that released yesterday. Oh boy, we got an interesting one here, but first off, 3 games released yesterday. The first one, Age of Empires Definitive Edition for the PC, which it's a re-release like for $20 of the first Age of Empires, I think. So there's that, because I don't think that works on a lot of modern day computers. Then another one that released yesterday is called Xenon Valkyrie, which I can only assume is some other Japanese title.
Yeah, probably.
Some visual novel title, or Touhou-esque game. And then lastly, releasing yesterday was the very infamous Metal Gear Survive, which we will talk about later in the show.
Oh boy, we will.
So has anyone played any of the games on this list for the past 3 weeks? Anyone?
Nope.
Okay.
I can. I guess I'll just say it since we're gonna go ahead and just start talking about it.
Yeah.
So just because it's fresh on my mind, the Bayonetta thing, fun thing that actually happened recently with that. A lot of people were having issues. So the way it works is people get the Bayonetta 2 thing for the Switch, right? And then there's a code that's there that you use to get Bayonetta 1 for the Switch. I believe like some 75% odd codes for the Bayonetta 1 straight up did not work. So it was actually leaving people, they had to call Nintendo basically and have them manually give you another code. That was just something that a friend of mine was dealing with yesterday, and I was like, hey, that's something I remember.
At least it seems Nintendo fixed it fairly fast with tech support.
They're definitely managing it with the tech support, So it's
not
good on
as
them.
bad.
Good on them,
Yeah,
Nintendo
good tech
tends to
support
have
these days
pretty-
is rare.
Nintendo tends to take this sort of stuff like super serious.
Yeah. Most
They
definitely.
get on it fast.
Yeah. Well, before we actually get into talking about some of the other games that we mentioned on the list that we would talk about, I'm going to first kind of just go down the list and talk about next week in releases. So, for the 22nd, we have Pac-Man Championship Edition 2 Plus, which is a little bit of a mouthful. And it's...
I love the Pac-Man Championship
Yeah, the Pac-Man Championship Editions are a fun little switch on the formula. It's funny enough because it's coming out for the Switch. Hardy har. Then Stellaris Apocalypse is coming out, which is a DLC, I believe, for Stellaris. Which, if you don't know what that is, it's kind of like a Civ-esque game. So, not everyone here is going to be interested, I don't think. Then releasing on the 23rd is a game called Past Cure, which I have no idea what the fuck this is. Hold on, let me look at this real quick.
Past Cure or Past Cure?
Past Cure.
Okay.
C-U-R-E.
Okay, yeah, I heard Past Cure, so I was like, remembering.
It's a dark psychological thriller that blurs the lines between dreams and reality. Okay, I think I've heard enough.
Yeah.
Seems to be by a new game studio. I don't see won some stuff at like an indie game award show. Blah blah blah. Okay. Well, I don't know. Okay. Anyway, moving
Probably
on.
gonna stay away from that one.
Yeah.
Except it is psychological horror, so I might look. I like psychological
Depends
horror.
on the stuff around it when it comes out.
True. Yes.
And then releasing later that day, Sword Art Online Fatal Bullet. Oh boy.
Oh boy.
Great.
Game of my
milking
dreams.
that franchise so
And then releasing later that day, an actual game that might be exciting, Yumi Nikki Dream Diary, which is, I believe, the remake / like sequel to the original Yumi Nikki, which is interesting. If you
More
do not,
anime garbage.
if you do not know what Yumi Nikki is, it's like a how can I describe it? It's like almost like an Undertale before Undertale was a thing. It's a really old cult classic game where you kind of it's similar to Earthbound and Undertale and that kind of stuff, and it was only like 6 hours long and psychological horror-esque kind of stuff. So
Yeah, I'd compare it most similarly to Earthbound. That would be a very good description.
Oh, it's free to play too.
Did any of you play any of the Corpse Party games?
No.
I don't believe so.
Mix of visual novel and
So, more Japanese shit you're bringing onto the show? No, okay.
The weebs!
I didn't ever actually play them.
Anyway, releasing on the 26th is a racing game called Gravel by Square Enix. So, it seems to be like an
I think
off-road...
it's running out of racing name titles at this point.
Gravel.
Don't they have one that's literally just called
right
Cars or something like that? And I'm not talking about the Disney.
I was about to say, that's a movie. Anyway.
I've always just wanted to play a racing game where you can play as Mater.
So you just want to be a Larry the Cable Guy kind of character.
Yeah, that's my dream.
On the 27th, there are a few ports. First off is The Blob 2 being ported over to PS4 and Xbox One, which...
The Blob? Like, one of my favorite Wii games. Like, both of them. They're so good. Like, I can't recommend them enough. Yeah. It's basically... if you guys don't know what that is, I can do a brief explanation.
Okay, go ahead.
So yeah, so basically, the Blob is like this really fun, colorful game where you're just a blob of color, and you have to go around painting the town. That's just all white, and you can like change color, and you have to get like town 60% green or something. There's different challenges, and then they start
more
enemies. Yeah, it's super fun. It's a really great game.
Splatoon.
Is Splatoon before Splatoon was a thing? Okay.
Kind of, yeah. Except it's not it's a single player game though. It's very interesting. Yeah.
Well, I mean, there was multiplayer in the second one, actually.
But yeah, it's just a single player game. It's super fun. 2, I can see why they're porting 2 because 2 is just such like so much better. They added so much more stuff to it. But yeah, I would highly recommend that one.
Well, other ports that day, Payday 2 is finally getting its port over to the Switch on the 27th of this month.
Oh, yay.
It's gonna be interesting for them to introduce a new character and then release it a month later on the PC so that people can actually play as a new character.
I forgot that they had that new character they're gonna be throwing in.
Yeah, for probably like only a month though. So
yeah, didn't they toss in some new characters? I thought they were gonna stop making new paid DLCs.
I don't think it's paid. I don't think.
I seem to have cut out there
I believe
for
it is
a
free.
second.
You didn't miss much.
Okay.
And then lastly, being ported over to Xbox One from the PC is a game called Immortal Redneck, which I don't know if you guys have ever heard of.
I have heard of it. That's actually a game I really want to try it myself. It looks super fun.
Not to be offensive, but like every game we've discussed, it's almost been I really want.
You know what, Grin? Just keep cutting out there, buddy.
Yeah.
What the hell, man?
And then also releasing...
It's like always right as you get to the important part of what you're trying to say, too.
Also releasing on the 27th is a game called Rift Star Raiders, which I don't know what it's about, so let me search it up real quick. This is the last game on the list, so... I am. I am. Rift Star Raiders. What is this about? It's all about the loot.
I heard roof. I'm not hearing stuff correctly today.
It's a game called Rift Star Raiders. It seems to be there's some kind of space-based game. I don't know if it's space combat or like I don't know. Rift Star Raiders. Check it out for yourself. Space. There you go. Xbox One. It's releasing on the Xbox One. So.
We're Star Raiders in space. Check it out.
That's it for the rest of the next week and the rest of February. Is anyone excited for any of those titles?
The Blob 2.
Oh,
Again,
Lord.
I will definitely play that game again.
No.
I was gonna say I'm kind of scum of the earth at this point where I don't play a lot of the new titles. I just kind of enjoy the titles I already have because I'm like, being a poor college student doesn't allow me to buy games all the time.
Yeah, that's
And I do like eating, so
Yeah, I recently just bought a whole bunch of expensive stuff, so...
Yeah, I kind of just put all my money to the Steam sale, so who knows if I actually will buy it, but I do want to.
So, yeah, I didn't really expect anyone to really say much on the matter. If I'm excited for one of the games coming, it's probably the Yumaniki re-release or whatever. Just to see what they do with it, because it'd be interesting. But I digress.
I'll probably play the first one after the podcast. I'll probably download because it's free to play.
Yeah, it's a pretty good, like, cult classic psychological horror kind of Undertale-esque thing.
Yeah.
So
I love psychological horror, so I will be down.
And what?
Oh, if we were talking about next month.
No, we were not talking about next month, mister.
if we were.
you have to wait till next month.
Hypothetically, if we were.
I would totally want to get Yakuza 6.
Okay, well, is that even next month? Pretty sure that's April.
Oh, no, yeah, it's April.
Pretty sure that's not even next month.
Well, if we were talking about next month, I'd be wanting to talk about the following month.
If we're talking about April already, then oh boy.
This entire
February
stream is just
doesn't
talking
Green
about every game that's
January,
coming out
March,
this year.
Grin is on the next level, April Fools, 2 months ahead of time.
Well. Now let's go back to some of the games we talked about. We get 3 big games that released in the kind of coming weeks leading up to this podcast, and all 3 of these big games have some pretty big controversy surrounding them. And I'm gonna start with the farthest back that I think is probably gonna take the least time, and it just tells you how fucking like crazy some of the stuff is. But starting off with Dynasty Warriors 9. So let's begin. Does anyone want to take the wheel, or do you want me to start it off?
I trust you.
Okay. So a lot of I haven't played any of the recent ones, but a lot of the earlier ones are basically just a re-envisioning of the same battles.
Well, we're gonna.
I mean, I'll let you take the wheel, but let's just say they put way more effort into their spin-off titles of like adding Zelda characters and Fire Emblem characters than they do in their actual characters.
Well, that's because the Dynasty Warriors are based off of like very loosely, mind you.
Oh yeah, really? Yeah. Where'd you learn that fact, Grin? From every single game where it tells you that 500 times?
No.
It basically just, if people give them money, they can make good games.
Anyway. Okay, so let me start by going back to one of their spin-offs. Oh yeah, let's talk about that because we haven't talked about that yet. One of their spin-offs called Dragon Quest Warriors 2, the second one of the Dragon Quest Warriors, of course, was a open world title, and it was open world, and they did it in a way that was kind of interesting. They had like puzzles around, you could do different stuff, and it actually felt like they did open world right. Then they announced they were doing open world for Dynasty Warriors 9, and people were like, well, seems like you're changing up the formula. We don't know if we like this yet, but we'll see, because you didn't do it bad when it came to Dragon Quest Builders, or Dragon Quest Warriors 2. So we come to February 13th when this game comes out. They did it bad. So, needless to say, there are a few. There are a few things that are the reason for this. One, they didn't really upgrade the AI between the games, and the AI has never really been a good feature in Dynasty Warriors. But because of the open world, it's starting to show its cracks, like, enemies trying to climb up mountains and being stuck in the mountain.
Or just standing there and
Yeah.
letting you shoot them.
So it's not that the AI is worse than it has been in past game. It's just that it hasn't been updated for the open world, so it kind of makes it seem fucking wonky as shit. So then we get to the fact that this whole open world, spanning China, because it's supposed to be historically accurate about the War of the Five Kingdoms or whatever. So it's spanning China, and as you're going across it from point to point, there really isn't anything in between, which baffles me a little bit, because, like I said, when they had Dragon Quest Warriors or whatever too, and it was fully open world, it felt like they did it right, the open world stuff. So with this game, it feels like they were like a different team, maybe, like their actual full team, and their full team has been working with a new engine, and because they're working with this new engine, maybe they couldn't work with it as well or something. So
my opinion is this: I just think if if they're doing spin-offs, they get more money from like the second company. So like now we can actually put time into this.
Well, I do think this game was a little could have used a little more time in the oven, but that's besides the point.
Yeah.
Moving on, there are a few more things, like for instance, if you're a fan of Far Cry or Assassin's Creed, and you just love climbing up those towers, spending like a minute and a half climbing up towers and then staring and then jumping off the tower, then boy, does this game have something for you, because it has those towers that you do the same thing with. And man, that's a tired thing in gaming, but I don't really need to talk about that on end, because pretty sure most gamers agree that you could do without the tower nonsense.
I want to point out that Far Cry 3 is what brought it.
Yeah, it's what brought it, all right.
2, it wasn't really a thing.
You cut out there, by the way.
Son of a butt.
Cut out right after brought it. So we're like, yeah.
Far Cry 3 brought it.
Yeah, Far Cry 3 brought in the whole tower thing.
Yeah.
And Far Cry 2, it didn't have it. Far Cry 1, I hated that game.
And I mean, it was I think it was a Ubisoft kind of like thing, because they already had it in Assassin's Creed, and they were like, ooh, let's bring it over to Far Cry 3.
Yeah, I think they had some of the same people come in like, hey, we should do the same annoying thing we did before.
Hey, let me tell you something. Towers. That's gonna make our game great.
See, well, at first when it was in Assassin's Creed, it was kind of like a cool way for you to climb the architecture and like see the different stuff that you wouldn't normally see if there wasn't something up there. Yeah. But now at this point in games, it's just, do this thing so you can know where to get other stuff. Woo-hoo.
It's like it's a requirement of an open world game now. It seems like you have to have towers, or you can't get that open world title.
As much as I liked the most recent Zelda, did the same nonsense. Mm-hmm. It was annoying.
It was very annoying.
And then they did something similar in the Shadow of War game.
Yep, they did the Shadow of War. I mean, they had that in the first Shadow of War as well. So Shadow of Mordor or whatever, they had them in both of them. So
I remember having to climb up the towers, but I don't remember using them to unlock.
Yeah, I don't think you used them in the same way, but you still had to
I think they were set up as save points, right? Or like as warp points.
Yeah, I mean that's what they serve in the second game as well. But now in the second game, like you have to go into it and like look across the map and find the collectibles individually instead of it just giving it to you like it did in the first game. But,
God, that sucks.
But I digress. And also, since let me go back to Dynasty Warriors 9. Let's peel back a little bit. The last thing that I want to talk about Dynasty Warriors 9. Well, actually, there's two more things, so never mind. One of the last things I want to talk about in Dynasty Warriors 9 is they changed...
If you were talking about one last thing, hypothetically, you would talk about two.
Yeah, I would talk about two.
Stop being
so they changed up the combat, and combat, I played a little bit of the Dynasty Warriors 9 combat. They changed it in a way that it makes it so it has a easy way for me to explain this would be a low skill floor but a high skill ceiling. So in the combat now, you can just mash the same button to get the job done, and then they also have this new mechanic where if like a certain character's health is low, you can just press the triangle button and it'll instantly kill them, which I'm not going to complain about here, but it's pretty fucking stupid.
Well, you kind of have to realize, because at least with a lot of the Dynasty Warriors games, that is how the combat is.
Yeah, but
so in some games, it's like, yeah, that's totally not acceptable to just have, press one button to continue. But for Dynasty Warriors, at least, I feel like, you can't really complain for what Dynasty Warriors is known for. It's not necessarily known for super complex fighting styles.
Well, yeah, but at the same time, they made it even less complex than it was before. So,
oh yeah,
they made it worse at the floor, but at the ceiling, which is what I wanted to bring up, is that like a lot of people are finding out you can do a lot of cool different combos that you couldn't do before. So they've like expanded it, but at a base level, it seems really bland. Especially with this instant kill option that they've added, where an enemy's like half health and you just press the triangle button and they're dead, which appears on every enemy, and you don't have to have any like special bar for it or anything. It's just something that randomly happens when you're fighting an enemy. It'll be like, oh, they're close enough to death, just press the triangle button and they're dead. So, yeah, that's a little fucky, if I have to say. Anyone else got anything to say?
The most recent one that I played was the Hyrule Warriors, and that's it.
Yeah, Hyrule Warriors was...
Yeah, Hyrule Warriors was great.
I think...
The most recent Dynasty Warriors-esque game I've played was... they actually had this on PS3, I think? PS2 or PS3? No, it was PS3, and it was a Gundam Dynasty Warriors game.
Yeah, the Gundam.
Actually had pretty good gameplay. The gameplay for it was not bad in the slightest.
What are we talking about?
Dynasty Warriors Gundam game.
Gundam games.
Came out a while back.
Yeah, I have one of them, and it's a lot of fun.
It's actually not too bad.
I really like the Nintendo-based Dynasty Warriors games. Like Hyrule Warriors and Fire Emblem Warriors are amazing. The thing I don't like about the regular games, though, is the DLC requirements to actually, if you want everything. It goes like upwards of like $140, I believe, just to get everything for like one of the games.
Yeah, that's right, because
it's crazy.
Amount of like DLCs and stuff.
Yeah.
Well,
that was one of the biggest drawaways for me for Hyrule Warriors was they're like, oh yeah, here's all these characters we added in, and I'm just like, what's gonna happen is that it's gonna get re-released on the Switch, and it's gonna go, here's all the game with all of the characters.
Yeah, funnily enough, it was just announced for the Switch like the other day. Oh,
yeah,
would have believed that?
I'm from the future.
I'll just say this though, in the Hyrule Warriors game, the best character is Marin.
You cut out right before you said what character you liked.
It's Marin.
Yeah.
Milk
Marin.
Girl?
No. The Seagull Girl.
Seagull Girl?
Dragon Roost Island.
Oh. I thought you were talking about, what's the redheaded milk girl's name? Malin? I mean, it's close.
Yeah, I know.
I just call him a Pona's person.
Yeah.
I know she's like one of the characters in the game, so that's what I thought you were talking about.
Agatha was actually really fun to play as too.
Who?
Bug Lady.
Bug Girl from Twilight Princess.
Twilight Princess.
I don't think I unlocked her.
She was fun.
Anyway, and the actual final thing I want to talk about Dynasty Warriors 9 is they decided to kind of neuter a lot of the unique weapons on people, and a lot of the weapons follow the same style. Like everyone has fans or like balls on chains or stuff
didn't
like
they
that.
actually replace like some guys like cool claw weapons for like a weapon that another character just had?
Yeah. And the thing about this that people are peeved about is they said, oh, we're going to be releasing more weapons and more characters later as DLC. So that's why people are a little pissed off, because they made everything really samey, and then they said, oh, we're going to release more stuff. Don't worry, it's just going to be DLC. You have to pay a little bit for it. But, so.
Games cost so much to make.
Yeah, games cost way too much to make. There should be more than $60, and I'll have loot boxes, and oh, boy.
Even though they won't affect stocks. Don't worry.
So. Yeah, what, Mr. Grin?
Just thinking about the fact that I've only played really 3 games in the past couple of months.
I mean, to be fair,
I mean, I've only played that many too, probably.
Like, the only thing I play nowadays are, like, 2 phone games, Dragon Ball FighterZ, League of Legends, and then Slay the Spire.
Yeah, so more or less 3 games. I don't count phone games because I do that when I'm, like, in between other games.
Yeah.
But
Well,
it's like having a sandwich for a snack or something like that.
I do that too
except
often.
For that, with that analogy, it's like, I have a snack from time to time, to keep me going. It's like, I stopped eating this wonderful chicken to go eat an additional sandwich.
Yeah, it's more like oh, I ate a chicken 2 hours ago. Let me have a granola bar.
I just like how you said that because it's like I ate an entire chicken. Now I want a snack.
People don't do that.
Like, yeah, isn't that the usual?
Like, have you?
I don't
seen
think
how much I eat.
But I don't think I do that much. Yeesh.
I'm still playing Final Fantasy 14.
You playing the new DLC for it? The Zodiac Age?
Oh my god. It's not like this.
Oh, okay, so I'm doing the Final Fantasy 14 and Monster Hunter World, which is a fantastic freaking game. They did such a wonderful job with that. And then I got into I got the VR stuff going on now.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I've just been playing older games. Like I just finished Fallout 3. I've decided to replay New Vegas with the DLC.
So, wait. When you said
Wuppo.
you finished Fallout 3,
yes, with all DLC.
With like Broken Steel and all that stuff.
Yes.
Okay.
Doing New Vegas.
Yeah, and so I decided to replay New Vegas because I only played a little bit of it, and then finals came for school, and then I dropped it, and so I've been playing that again and played Wuppo.
Have a good time with New Vegas. So that's all.
Yeah, I just finished the one of the DLCs, the casino one. And that was really fun.
That's like the worst DLC of all of them. So
is that the one Honest Hearts?
The casino one, I forget what it's called, but yeah, that's the actual worst of the 4 DLCs in my opinion.
Oh. Okay, that's good because I had a decent amount of fun with it. So
yeah, it was interesting, but
it was interesting from a psychology standpoint.
My favorite.
Yeah, it was real interesting from the let me blow up every 2 seconds standpoint, but I digress. Anyway, let's move on to the next of the 3 games, and by that I mean the last of the 3 games, which of course means the second to last of the 3 games. Is that confusing enough for you? Anyway.
Nope.
Not confusing enough, actually.
Let's talk about the game that released yesterday, Metal Gear Survive.
Oh no.
So
yeah, I'll let you take the wheel here, Grin.
Okay, so I looked it up on the PlayStation Store for whatever the hell reason. It was like the 18th or something like that. Maybe it was the 14th, and it said it releases on the 20th. And I'm like, why is it available now if it doesn't release for like another half a week? What the hell's going on here?
It's pre-order, dude.
It wasn't a pre-order though. It was like you could buy it and download it and play it then.
Maybe they're doing like if you pre-order it the week before, you can play it early or something.
They didn't say anything about that. It's just like,
I mean, as far as I'm concerned, they didn't say anything about this game in like the past months because I haven't heard anything about it.
I wonder why.
I heard about it years ago.
Well, actually, no. They actually gave out pre-review copies and then banned anyone from talking about the game afterwards.
Yeah,
I mean that.
I saw someone streaming it, but I didn't like actually watch them because I'm like,
The only controversy I know surrounding it so far, other than the fact that it isn't really a Metal Gear game, but that's beside the point. The only other controversy I know so far is for like 4 hours at release, no one could play it because because it's when you booted up the game, it said update required, please update, and when you exited the game and checked for an update, it said fully updated. So nobody could get into the game.
There are more controversies.
Get wrecked, nerd.
Yeah. But that's the one I heard of.
Wait. So Konami was punishing people for buying a bad game
Pretty
that
much.
they made.
Yep.
Other than that, I've heard it's actually like a pretty standard, game of its genre, which I think is like survival style, like kind of
it's survival horde.
Survival horde, yeah. Well, I've heard it's
What's
pretty standard, but the reason why people don't like it is because it's spitting on the grave of Metal Gear, basically. So.
I mean, basically,
in more ways than one.
Yeah, I mean, people are always going to be mad about, what Konami did to Kojima's work. But I mean, at the end of the day, I think for the most part, people don't like it because of the legacy that MGS has, in that it's like, you've got the stealth gameplay, you got all this stuff. And they basically boiled it down to, here's your survival horror game. I hope you enjoy it. Yeah, have fun. There you go. Quit complaining that we're not giving you anything. Which I think that's the reason why people are so, for lack of a better term, offended with the game.
Yeah.
Well, actually, there's like another controversy just blanketed right over top of it.
Okay.
That is. Yeah, you can actually only get one save file when you start the game. No, but it gets worse too.
I saw this.
You can get extra save files, but you have to use their in-game currency, which is SV coins, and you need 1,000 of these SV coins.
Is that a lot?
And on top of it, the only way to get that many is by paying $10. So every time you want to get a new character, you have to either overwrite your save file or shell out $10.
Can you play and experience everything with one character? Like with Final Fantasy, and I hate the idea of paid MMOs. I don't know. I don't really care for it, but I appreciate the fact that Final Fantasy, you at least can change the job of your character and you can experience the job of any other thing. Can you do that in this game? Or is there any purpose to doing that, I guess is what I should be asking.
I have not looked into like how job classing works in that game, but all I know is that it's such like save files are now locked behind a paywall.
What was the wasn't that like Resident Evil, the one where you have to like you get a limited number of saves with like a typewriter or something?
Yeah, but
imagine
the
imagine a remake, and you can get more save files. You just gotta pay up that $10 for the saves.
Yeah, it's just $10 just to have an extra save, and you have to keep doing that every time you want another one.
That's awful.
Jesus.
Yeah, what else are they going to take away? Like, what other basic game functions?
Online.
Well, you have to be online for that game.
That's the joke.
Oh, yeah, fair.
It's free real estate.
Free real estate.
So anyway, moving on.
Imaginary real estate.
Moving on to the real last game, which of course is the second to last, third. Okay, anyway. The last game that released in the last few weeks that is the last of the three that we were talking about, and
I don't even know what you're talking about anymore.
My own brain. So, a game that released on February 13th that has been getting some acclaim, some hate, blah blah blah. It's a little divisive. Kingdom Come Deliverance. Now, has anyone else heard of this? Grin, you seem to be acquainted.
I've heard about how buggy it is.
Yeah, I know. This was one of those games that I really loved the concept of. Like, it sounded so interesting. It's like, yeah, I would love to see how a game like this would focus on real time, because it could be either really amazing or just really bad. Just horrible.
Well, that's the divisive thing right now in, the gaming community is it good, is it bad? A lot of people think it's good, a lot of people think it's bad. So it's kind of a toss-up at the moment.
Amazing. You can have a flying horse.
I love hover horses.
So yeah, it's the base of the game is it's kind of like Skyrim meets like Mountain Blade almost, and it's kind of like you build up these skills, and it's kind of realistic at the same time, but it still has
everything runs on real time. If you're there, if you're not there, you can miss stuff.
But it still has like the Skyrim stuff of like rendering every character and like deciding what they're gonna do, and also the glitchiness of Skyrim. And it is to their credit, it's a small dev team, it's an indie game, even though it is $60. It's a small dev team, so the glitchiness isn't entirely the Eurojank, as they call it, isn't entirely unseen from like small developers. But it's just because it's such a big game like Skyrim that people are seeing the similarities to all these glitches and all this nonsense. But other than that, other than the overall game stuff, an aspect I wanted to talk about was the realism, quote-unquote, in the game. So the game is based off of Bohemia, back when Bohemia had like a civil war about succession, basically. Basically, one of the king's sons had a bunch of land that he wanted the other land that his brother had as well, because he's greedy and, of course, he always wants more. So he ended up, long story short, he ended up invading Bohemia, and your main character, it's kind of like they do a Witcher kind of thing, where you have a main character, you can't change who the main character is, he is this person. So you have to go through his story and, do stuff with him. So yada, yada, yada. And it's kind of they touted it as like a realistic kind of version of Skyrim and like Oblivion and stuff like that. And to its credit, it does do a lot of stuff like that. But at the same time, it has some problems. For instance, the big one that's being brought up by a lot of people is the save system. So in the game, there's 2 ways to save right now. And the only 2 ways to save are to sleep in a bed and have it save, which sometimes, from reading on the internet, glitches out and doesn't actually save. Or you can drink this potion or whatever called Save Your Schnapps, which saves your game, but it's costs...
Really?
Yes.
That's fucking hilarious.
And it saves your game, and it costs 75 gold at a vendor, which is a lot of money in the game. And also, when you drink it, you become drunk. So if you're trying to save the game before an important point, you end up becoming drunk and also wasting 75 gold because you're trying to save. So there's a lot of controversy with that. And
That's actually amazing.
And the developers are like, okay, next update, we're having a save and quit option, so you don't have to, do one of those 2 things.
Oh, come on, no fun allowed.
And people are like, well, that's another thing. People were like, well, are you going to bring up like an Iron Man mode where you can only save using those 2 options or something like that? And they were like, well, we don't know. So I don't know where it's going to go.
Save your schnapps.
And I mean, if I had to, I have not played the game yet. I've only seen it. But if I had to leave like a quick review from like the hours of stuff that I've seen from it, it would be wait till this summer until it goes on like the Steam sale, because right now it's glitchy and the systems are like kind of strange and stuff like that. So wait till they've updated it a bit, got rid of some of the glitches, done this and that. Around the summer, I think would be a good time to pick it up. So I know I kind of dominated that conversation, but that's because I've watched a lot of hours.
I think you would know the most out of any of us.
Say, as somebody who has not played the game, I have friends who have been relatively excited for it for a while, and they actually are enjoying it just fine.
Yeah,
but,
it's like I said, it's divisive between the community.
It's definitely, for someone to say, oh, nobody cares about it, or so, like, that's not the right word. I said the wrong thing. For somebody to kind of dismiss it off as like, oh, people don't like it. I definitely know there are a few people out there who legitimately enjoy this game right now. So
yeah.
I think maybe it's not good for the people who get stressed very easy, because I feel like if you miss something, you're gonna be like, oh no, now I can't get to this other thing because I wasted too much time, and it's gonna stress them out.
I just think that if you save, you have to get drunk. I think that's just
hilarious.
That's just funny. That's just amazing.
That is hilarious in a horrible, horrible way.
What a phenomenal way to deal with save stuff.
Well, it also costs 75 gold, which is like a lot in the game.
Yeah.
So
yeah. If it was free, that would be a different story.
Yeah.
Or just a couple of bucks or something.
Yeah.
Or gold, excuse me.
Gotta give us $10 for your save.
Anyway, so I think
imagine like a Bethesda game, but you have to spend $10 a save.
Well,
I
no,
mean,
with Bethesda
welcome to the
games,
future.
I'd rather just replace the entire game and make you pay full price for it again.
Yeah, pretty much. Anyways, I don't want to alienate the gamers that have found joy in Kingdom Come Deliverance. But there is something that I think is one of these separate the artist from the art kind of thing. And you know where we're going with this probably. One of the developers for Kingdom Come Deliverance isn't a very good boy. So let's harken back to a time a few years ago. I think at this point, like 2, when there was a movement propping up called Gamergate, and back when Gamergate happened, originally the intent was to get integrity on our journalism because this woman was sleeping with these guys so she could get good reviews, and what an asshole. But then it turned out that Gamergate started being molded and transformed into woman shouldn't develop video games, and then all of a sudden you're like, wait, what? That's not what I signed up for. Wait a second. So
yeah.
So we're not really going to go into Gamergate today, but the reason why I talk about that is because one of the developers was part of the Gamergate crowd that was woman shouldn't be designing video games, which isn't a good crowd. And also he's possibly racist. You know, don't want to go into terms of it, but this game has no people of color in it, and it does take place in old Europe, which is their excuse for not having people of color in it. But at the same time, people have brought up there should still be people of color because back then in old Europe there was trade routes and there would be a lot of people of color coming through those, and also slaves and etc. etc. So there's a bit of controversy around the developer, you know, not wanting to include people of color for whatever reason. He claims it's historically accurate, but people think he's kind of an asshole.
We
so
have to actually call in some historians to critique his work. That would be pretty interesting, actually.
I would actually. That'd be fun.
Either way, the game
is.
is.
Things I saw though, didn't they say something about like the setting or whatever? Isn't it like it's basically in like a 9-kilometer square? Like it's not like all of an entire country. It's literally just like a small area.
They were trying to have this area of Bohemia that was like the big focal point of the Civil War in Bohemia back then or whatever. And like I said, he's trying to bill it off as you know, people of color weren't there back then. A lot of people are just saying he's an asshole though, so I don't know what's happened there. All I know is he was part of Gamergate during the Woman Should Be Developers time, which you know, wasn't a good time. And he might be an asshole. So that's all I know. I'm just bringing it up, not trying to, you know, hamper anyone's enjoyment of the game. Like I said, separate the artist from the art. That's what I tend to do in situations like these. You know, I can still play Fez and not think about how Phil Fish is a giant asshole. So, stuff like that.
Such an idiot.
I don't. I don't do that.
Anyway.
I don't know. There's some cases where that's the case. There's other cases where I just won't give any money to EA ever again. So
yeah,
pretty much.
There you go.
Anyway, moving on to some of our actual topics, we've finally gotten out of the. It's been an hour, but we've gotten out of the game titles released in the past 3 weeks.
Hey, that's a good amount of content right there.
Yeah.
So we're going to move on to some of the topics that were permitted, and first I'm going to start with the topic that I submitted. And it's going to be about Assassin's Creed Origins, believe it or not. They released something that was actually pretty interesting to me, so I decided to write it down here. It's a new non-violence educational mode, where if you have the game, you can have it for free, and if you don't have the game, it costs like $20 to $25. And it's basically just this thing where there's like 75 different historical tours that you can walk around the map, and you can go, and they range from like 20 minutes or something like that, I think was the average. And it's basically just you walk around the map, you go here to this place, and it's like, oh, this is the history of this, and like this is, you know, explaining something about this era and stuff like that. And I thought it was a pretty interesting thing for them to do.
Yeah, I actually really like stuff like this. I actually really like video games being used as a education medium. I think it's a really kind of unexplored ground because of how horrible some of the stuff in the past has been, but I feel like if it can be like refined and like done well, I think it's really just great ideas.
Yeah. And I think
when I was a kid,
wouldn't be
back
too
in
bad.
the 90s, there were a lot of educational video games.
Yes.
Yeah.
I remember having a Sesame Street like SNES game that was horrible, but
Yeah.
I remember it.
Well, I mean, it seems like this is a good thing for maybe if you have a specific, Egypt religion class or something like that.
Well, yeah. Well, like young me, specifically, would have loved this because I used to love learning about like anything Egyptian culture. Like I was in on that sort of stuff. So something like this would have really like spoke to younger me. Like I would have loved this so much.
Yeah, it's basically no combat, none of that stuff, none of the actual in-game stuff, like none of the story or anything. It's just you go to an area, your character walks around while they talk about, this is this and blah blah blah, and this is what happened back then,
Kind of like
et cetera, et cetera.
War.
Yeah, almost like that. And so I thought it was kind of interesting, and I thought it was kind of cool that Ubisoft decided to do that. Doesn't excuse any of the stuff that Ubisoft has done, but
Nope.
I still
But
think
it's still interesting.
it's a cool thing that they did, that tries to do.
I don't know if you've seen any of like the some of the things that they've had, like that they put into their game, and they. I'm going to tread very carefully with my words. Some of the things that they've put in that some would call borderline historical revisionism. So I don't know. I like the idea of using a game as teaching somebody history, but people also kind of need to not overstep their bounds at times. The one I'm most specifically talking about is they had this one that I think it was like a pot or something that they no, I'm not talking about weed. I'm being serious, dude. Dude, wait, no, but like it was supposed to be like some kind of a pot or something that had depictions of a boy and a girl on it, and then they're like, oh yeah, this isn't how it actually was back then, but we thought it would be important to to put this on there. And it's like, okay, yeah, that's fine, but like if you're going to try and present your game as historically accurate and then also include this, and then also feel the urge to go, hey, look at how how progressive we're being, it's like you're kind of losing me halfway there. Like I'm not all the way on board with it. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's like you can't have your cake and eat it too. That's basically what they're trying to do on that.
Yeah.
And I wish I could find that picture, but of course I can't. Oh,
well, I get the point that you're getting across.
You get what I'm talking about, though. Yeah.
It's very similar to bring back up Kingdom Come Deliverance. Very similar to the fact that Kingdom Come Deliverance touts, realism, and then you have health potions in the game, and it's like, wait a second.
Yeah, save
your snaps.
Yeah, save your snaps. But I digress. We're going to move on to a subject brought up by Mr. Emperor Gurnar.
Oh, shoot.
And it's going to be about, apparently, PUBG on Xbox One X has been getting great reviews, but the videos are coming out horrible. I've seen a little bit of this, but why don't you explain, Grin?
Alright, so, like, I haven't really delved very deep into it, but every review that I have seen by a major publication has, like, given PUBG huge, like, praise for being, like, the definitive version and all that stuff on Xbox One. However, when you actually watch people play it, it's horrible looking and runs terribly.
Crobcat made a fantastic video about that.
And the reason why I think that is, Microsoft paid us money. So we're going to say this game is good on this system, because Microsoft paid us a lot of money.
Well, I think it also has a lot to do with actually
that's why it looks like
porting
Microsoft
over games.
Paint.
So, what you mean, like they're kind of bundling it with the original that they had already done? Oh yeah, it's like the game we already played, but better.
Yeah, basically.
That's lazy freaking journalism.
No, lazy journalism would be saying that it's literally the Dark Souls of the Breath of the Wild series
That's
of
true.
free-ranging, open setting, other fantastic buzzwords.
Hi, I'm Todd Howard.
Yep.
Well,
Hi, I'm Todd Howard, and this is why you should buy Fallout 5 for the 8th time this month.
Welcome to Skyrim Remastered Reborn Edition.
Don't give him ideas. Don't give Todd ideas.
Now on your Apple Watch.
For the Nintendo Labo.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Ugh. Yeah, but I've seen some videos of PUBG on the Xbox One X. And
Crowdcat had a phenomenal video with that, though, of just kind of showing what it looks like. And the game's not optimized on PC. It's still not. I still don't care to play it, but holy hell.
Not only does it look even worse.
You can't make a game like that.
Yeah, not only does it look even worse on the Xbox One X, but it runs even worse from what I've seen. So.
Yeah, most definitely.
Ugh.
It's like a
it runs...
PS2 kind of game.
It's not like
I was gonna say.
Yeah, it's not like the it's not like the graphics on the PC looked better than a PS2 game most of the time anyway. So.
Yeah, most definitely.
But I digress. Moving on. Let's see what else has Bryn recommended. You have a lot of things on you, Bryn.
I had a lot of ideas, and now I don't even know what I wrote down.
Well, how about we start with this one? Game scaling the difficulty to a player rank level versus a hard set baseline.
Okay, I can explain this as long as my headset doesn't.
I think I might know where you're coming from with this, but
so like some games they will scale like whatever level you are. Enemies will also match that.
Okay.
And then other games where it's like you can, like the classic Final Fantasy, you can just be over leveled or under leveled or even just be matched to an encounter instead of it scaling to you in terms of difficulty. And I can kind of go in any direction for this, and I don't even remember why I wrote it down. There was a game recently about it, and I was like, that's a good thing to talk about. Now I'm like, what the fuck was I even thinking?
I mean, I guess you could also say that's like, is it good to have all bosses damage scaled, or is it good to have some bosses that are and some bosses that aren't? Because if you think about it, Binding of Isaac does that, where all the bosses aren't really damage scaling, except for 2. Where they are damage scaled. 2 of the bosses in the game are, where everything else is not. And it's weird, I guess.
Yeah.
I guess it's like for the challenge, but it's just weird because they were new bosses. They added them later in the game. They weren't in the original 2, I guess, before they did Afterbirth Plus.
Well, the thing is with the original boy, well, not original boy, but when those... I'm assuming you're talking about
Hush and Delirium.
Yeah. When they came out originally, people didn't know they scaled with your damage. They thought
we talking about Binding of Isaac. Wait
yes.
a minute, I was in the restroom. We talking about my game?
Yeah, they were.
Yeah, we're talking about damage scaling and Hush and Delirium and how they're not or how they are damage scaled.
Yeah, originally we didn't think people in the community didn't think it was damage scaling. We thought it was just like super armor.
It's most definitely damage.
But then as people did more runs, we're like, oh.
Yeah, it's just so weird.
So if you can get like a low damage, high damage output run, there you go.
So
it's probably not like you probably can't like soy milk it and then just call it a day. I mean, there
unfortunately,
probably is
soy milk kind of sucks ass.
Health it can have.
Never pick up any of the milks. Except chocolate.
Chocolate milk.
Yo,
chocolate milk is top tier. Get your mouth out of my podcast if you're gonna say chocolate milk.
Hey, I also don't like dead cat.
What is wrong with you?
You don't like Guppy?
This is not an Isaac podcast.
I also think suicide
Everybody
is
yelling.
a fun challenge.
What is wrong with you?
If anybody is listening to this right now, just go ahead and skip like 15 seconds.
I bet you play co-op mode by yourself so you can play with the different baby classes.
I want to try that just for fun.
So you can try out the different baby classes.
Average, you went to the bathroom. The topic is like a set difficulty amount throughout the game versus the scaling.
No.
And for me, sometimes it can be fun and challenging. Other times it can just be completely brutal because I go into a situation where I'm built up for something specifically else, and I'm faced with someone who can just utterly and totally destroy me.
Sure.
Consistently.
We can talk about that. So, if for the people who have played Slay the Spire and who have beaten it multiple times, I'm sure that they know full and well who the Time Slug is.
Time Lord, I believe is his full name.
He's Time Slug to me.
Everyone I see calls him Time Lord. And I'm like,
Time Slug. That is the
like
name that strikes fear into the hearts of all.
Yeah, but he's also the Lord of Time.
It honestly, okay. Any boss you can beat in the game, there's like so many great strategies. Like, except for like, you know, each character has one strat that's not exactly fantastic. This character single-handedly will end your run, but not just end your run at any point in time. No, he ends your run at the end of the game. He only allows you to play 12 cards, and after you've played 12 cards, he ends your turn and gets stronger. Every single boss in the game can be beat with a relatively similar, like, you know, sequence of cards and stuff like that and strategies. This is the only boss that requires a specific strategy for when you're going up against him. And for that reason, I'm out. He's just...
I can't...
He's so infuriating. Yeah,
I can't use my OP draw deck.
I can't... I honestly, I had Dead Branch Shiv going, and I managed to just overpower him because the deck was dumb. But, like, I had one where it was like, oh, I'm playing a strength deck. Or not a strength deck. It was something with the Ironclad. And it was basically like I needed to play so many cards before the deck finally ramped it up. Or if you're doing Finisher Shiv, you know, you could basically end up losing your second turn just because the game's like, all right, you're done. You're done. Put your deck away.
I play as the Silent, like to have draw Shiv. Ooh. Guess I'm just gonna live in pain.
Free damage. Ooh, look at me.
Anyway, the game I was going to bring up for the scaling difficulty was going to be DAE Skyrim. It's a little indie game released in 2011 by some guy named Todd Howard. And
just stop.
And it was initially when you play the game, you fight some bandits, and it might be a little hard for you early on if you're a baby boy. And then as you progress through the game and you get higher levels, all of a sudden you walk into a mine and, you know, the bandits are like, bandit skull fucker, and, you know, he touches you once and you're dead, and it's like, oh.
Jesus Christ.
Dude, they become
graphic real fast.
They become
Yeah, really.
They become really hard towards when you get higher levels, and it just like destroys you, and it's like, what? How am I supposed to fight this? So half the time, unless you use like a bullshit magic combination.
Yeah, so I'm going through on Skyrim. I upped the difficulty a little bit because it on the VR it defaults to like the easiest setting. Which,
why?
Granted,
because you're in VR.
Fun that way. And it can like I haven't even bothered learning how to use a shield because I'm like, oh, I'll just flail about with two weapons. I'm a blender. That was the idea.
Just spin around your room.
Well, not quite like that. Just right directly in front of me. And I started the Dawnguard DLC because I got approached by that one orc, and if you don't, like, vampires just overrun a lot of the cities and kill the NPCs.
Yeah, I hate that so much.
So I started it, and I'm going through like a dungeon. I'm like, you know, 1 or 2 shotting, maybe 3 shotting things with my bow. It's pretty awesome. And I get to the freaking Death Hounds, and if I don't take them out first, they will just wreck my shit instantly. Like, it is so crazy. Plus, and then I ran up to a bear. I was like, I'll just go meat grind the fuck out of that guy. Nope.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, because that's my first thought whenever I see a bear. Just run up to it.
Meat grind the fuck out of that guy.
I mean, I'm playing on the second.
Are you Bandit Skullfuck? Hello?
That's apparently what the bear's name was. It's like, Get wrecked, noob.
Bear Skullfuck.
Hello, the name is Skullfuck. Bandit Skullfuck.
That's going to be like the next Borderlands 3 is going to be, instead of badasses, that's going to be the suffix.
Skullfucks.
Skullfuck.
Well,
we didn't think badass was scary
Was
enough.
enough.
so speaking of, hard games, like Skyrim, of course, hardest game I've ever played. Herp Derpy. Can't say her name without doing it like a stupid voice, but rage games and how hard is too hard was a topic you wrote down here. You mind?
Yeah. This just comes from my hatred of getting over it mostly because
It's not that bad.
It's not that bad.
I just don't think bad controls make a good rage game. Let's put it that way. I've been playing a lot of rage games recently, and this actually just also partly comes from The End Is Nigh as well, because that game adds layers of difficulty on top of each other.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah, starting with it starts out same as Super Meat Boy. It's like you have a screen, and you just gotta keep trying that screen over and over again. And you beat the screen, good. You're moving forward to the next one. And then at one point you have these little tumors that are just floating around, and you don't really know what to do. After you get to let's call it like phase 2 of the game, those tumors become your.
Hello?
The tumors got to her.
The tumors, they reached her.
Tumor Skullfuck.
The Skyrim bears have invaded wherever the hell she lives.
Panic.
1 second.
Oh, I see the thing that you linked.
Yeah.
Oh.
Okay. Hey.
Hi, am I back? I got disconnected again.
Oh, there you are.
I had to move you, and then I moved you back and unmuted you.
Oh, that was
somehow fixed whatever was going on.
Cool. So when did I cut out?
A long time ago.
Really? Oh.
I don't even remember.
You were saying you're talking about the tumors.
Yeah. Okay. So that's okay.
Tumors.
So yeah. So once you're playing through the game, you get tumors, and those tumors, once you get to what I'm going to call phase 2 of the game, now become your life counter. And you don't know this until after you get to phase 2, but now you have that many tumors that you've collected. I guess when I played, I got to about 121 when I first, because I didn't care for most of them because I didn't know. But now you have that many lives to get through, like 20 stages. And if you die anywhere throughout those 20 stages, you have to start all the way back, and these get progressively harder as you go on. And then you get to phase 3 of the game, which now you have the tumor count live issue, but you also have to do it under a time limit. And so each time it just gets more and more difficult and more stressful as you're playing.
Yeah. I've never played the game myself, but I've watched plenty of it on a Twitch, and doesn't look like it's a lot of fun when you get into that last stage.
No, I was
not the
getting
word I
very
used to describe
angry
it.
during stage 2, honestly, and during phase 2. I got very, very angry. Because it does like ramp up the difficulty of the stages too.
Well, I mean, rage games are they're always going to be like that. I mean, I want to be the guy kind of esque.
Well, yeah, but also that sort of all follow. Well, I guess I want to be the guy sometimes does the multi-layer screen transition, but
I mean, well, I'm trying to think of there was one that released recently. It was I want to be the guy esque, and it was on the phone, and you only have like 20 lives or something.
That one was just called like Trap, wasn't it?
Yeah, something like that. That weird yellow brick room thing.
Yeah.
And then you walk in, then it just kills you over and over.
Yeah.
Yeah, that game is, and I feel like
that's less for me. That's less like irritating. That's more funny. Just like, because you get killed by it, and all you can do is just be like, "Holy shit, they thought of everything."
Yeah, but the thing is, that should have been like they made it that way so they could either get that $5 to get all these extra ads, because you only have like 2 or 3 if you just do the free version, and every time you just get a game over, you have to watch an ad if you have the free version. So they didn't just made that to get that ad money, and I feel like that is very cynical.
Oh.
Yeah, it's
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's every time, like, you can either pay $5 and you get like 20 lives, or you can just like pay the free version and you get 3 lives, and you have to start, and don't get me wrong, after you use all your lives, you have to start all the way back to the very, very beginning.
Well, speaking of cynicism,
Ooh.
Grim brought up a topic that I'm going to limit to talking to like a minute.
Oh.
Because
I think like that's just because of me.
No, it's just because we don't need to talk about this. I mean, we pretty much sidewise talked about it like 50 times at this point. Hey Grin, why'd you bring this up? Loot box controversy. Oh boy, have we never mentioned this?
Because of how to get them. So like
the game has changed.
You can pretty much get the currency to buy that stuff pretty easily.
Yep. I mean, I did that in game multiple times.
Some games make it near impossible to get that currency, making it pretty much only available to those who actually shell out money, like physical money or fiat, whatever. That's the whole reason why I brought that up.
Soon they'll put save slots in loot boxes.
Yeah, that would freaking
stop.
I would burn down whatever country or state did that. I'm looking at you, Texas.
Lord.
Best state.
Why would Texas do that? Come on. You're confusing it with Florida, my native state.
Oh, what's wrong? Florida man is just great.
You can't burn down a swamp when
I have not tried to burn down a swamp.
No, I can't say I've played Resident Evil 7, no.
Oh.
Speaking of VR games, that one like touted amazing.
I mean, we talked about that a little bit last time, I think, because we were talking about HDQ and how VR.
Yeah.
Blah blah blah. Speaking of HDQ, Grin, you brought up a topic that just says games to see in speedrun /HDQ.
Oh, right. I just wanted to talk about like what kind of games people would like to see in the speedrun things, like Castlevania Symphony of the Night or any other Metroidvania. One that's not like terribly long, but is really cool to watch was the Mummy Demastered or whatever.
The Mummy Demastered.
Yeah, you play as like an a military agent, and then when you die,
based off the Mummy movie.
It has, as far as I'm aware of, it has absolutely no connection.
Okay.
I would like to see more randomizers myself.
Randomizers would be really
like
cool.
Zelda 1
I'm surprised,
randomizer?
honestly, I'm surprised like game developers haven't been adding those into the game like from the start. Like instead of having somebody making it, like having it like a game mode specific. I mean, obviously, randomizers aren't for every game ever. You can't just throw a randomizer and call it a day. But for some games, it's like, I mean, it's kind of.
It feels like it's gonna be like probably the next move. For some of them, it's going to be $15 DLC that includes a randomizer pack. But I digress.
Oh,
no. Stop giving them ideas.
Seems like that seems like that's probably what it's going to be next, and includes free save slot with your purchase.
But only one.
Yeah, only one.
You get 0 save slots unless you buy it.
But
to be fair, though, you remember old games like on the N64, some of them you couldn't save unless you had like the or any of them.
Yeah, unless you cut out.
Yeah, unless you just cut out for that entire sentence.
I was talking about like the old. Am I still cutting out?
No, you're here. Well, right now you're right here.
Okay, so like save cartridges and stuff like that.
Yes.
Yeah.
And save cards. Kind of the same thing.
At least they're integrated now.
I mean,
Pretty hard.
It wasn't
just-
like game specific though. It was console specific.
Where's my Animal Crossing for the GameCube speed run though? That's only 48 hours.
Hey.
It's not even the
Yeah,
longest.
You want to talk about long speedruns? Yeah, there's this thing called Yu-Gi-Oh! Forbidden Memories, and there's 100% speedrun for that.
Oh, I know. I've seen it.
That
it's a
fucker's like
beauty.
3 days long.
I mean,
That's a marathon right there.
There's one that stopped. I think a guy. I forget. It was a space game. I forget what it's called, but he stopped it like over 200 hours. It was about 9 days straight of him doing it, and
Oh
he
my
was
gosh.
like, I can't continue this anymore. I need to stop,
how
or else I
did
feel
you
like I'm
not
gonna have
have
a heart
a heart
attack.
attack?
Yeah, he said,
Yeah,
I feel like I'm gonna have a heart attack. I need to stop this now. so
That's so dangerous.
so yeah, and that run has still never been completed. So don't know how long that game actually is, but it's like some
you need
space
to,
game.
Do a tag team run of it.
Yeah.
Relay speedrunners. Oh my god.
Oh.
How will they deal with PBs?
My personal best for this,
This
for
one
my
PB?
section.
Yeah, basically. Hey, that might actually make it more reasonable for people. All right, tag off. And yeah. I've been studying this section alone.
Well, speaking of streamers playing till they basically drop, another thing Grin brought up is the zombie genre.
Oh god.
Great transitions here. The zombie genre, and it doesn't just relate to games. You related it to comics, TVs, and movies, and you asked the simple question: has the oversaturation slowed, stopped, or increased? Grin, take it away.
I think it's slowed some. It definitely hasn't stopped because we're still getting serious
Days Gone.
Days Gone.
Yeah,
Especially.
I agree with you. It's definitely slowed, but not stopped.
Yeah, I'm actually glad it's slowed because, like 4 years ago, it was still on the up and up and up and up and up, and it's like,
Yeah.
man.
I don't think the genre itself is the bad point. I think the oversaturation of it is the bad point.
It's not the fact that it's because it's zombies. Like I love killing like zombies, like especially if there's like a horde of them. Like you're playing.
I was really hoping your mic cut out right after you said I love killing.
The FBI is watching.
I love killing.
I love killing. Like if you give me a chainsaw and a whole bunch of targets, I'm just gonna be laughing.
Yeah, the zombie genre.
You're gonna be laughing though.
It's definitely slowed down, and I think the opus for it rising was kind of like the DayZ kind of stuff, where people saw it got really popular, and they were like, "Ooh, we don't have to pit people against other people. We can make a single player game where they just fight a bunch of idiot slow people." And
I mean, if you think about it, in a sense, you kind of have Payday. Rainbow Six Siege is going to be doing it soon. The Payday devs are doing another game. I mean, the idea of that kind of survival thing, Call of Duty's done it, countless times now.
Well, honestly, like the reason why the zombie trope is so popular is due to psychology in a lot of ways. And I feel like because of that, I don't think the zombie trend is ever going to completely stop. But I do think
it can be safely not called a trend anymore.
Yes, I agree with that.
At this point.
Yeah, I'm just so glad it's not oversaturated.
Oh, actually,
compared to your cutout, bro.
Blah, 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 blah. Okay, I was just saying, I'm just really glad that the oversaturation is like over with because I love killing zombies, but it's like a couple of years ago you couldn't sneeze without them developing a new zombie survival game.
I also kind of just wanted to touch this in real quick because this is actually something I'm reading right now. Talking about Metal Gear Survive. So the PC was supposed to come out today. They went ahead and delayed that till tomorrow. That's fucking hilarious right there. All right, you guys can.
it was originally supposed to come out yesterday too, I think. So
yeah, they delayed
it till today, and then they're like, "Oh wait."
Oh man, I'm
speaking of
my sides.
shitty zombie survival games.
Yeah, hey, it ties in. There you
Hey!
go. It comes full circle.
Speaking of,
The circle of life.
What if this is the real Phantom Pain?
speaking of,
Oh God!
well, speaking of companies, I'm trying to think of a good transition for this.
It's over.
Thinking of companies acting slow like zombies and not releasing sequels to their beloved franchises, fan games, are they good or bad for business? Herpy derpy. Take it away.
Okay.
Well, yeah. So I've just been thinking about this mostly because of games like Pokemon Prism, just Nintendo totally closing that down, and Uranium, and also games like the another Metroid Prime remake, because they were basically making that because they wanted a remake of Metroid 2 or whatever, and that came out just later because Nintendo was just trying to hide that they were making it. So it's this weird thing of like, is a fan game bad for business because it might like take the ideas of what a company is trying to secretly do, or is it good for business because it keeps their like customers interested in the brand while they're working on
I
stuff?
think it can be bent both ways. I don't think it's necessarily one way or the other, but it, like, depending on the situation. But every time I think of, well, you go.
Go ahead.
You go ahead.
Okay.
You go first.
I think that in a sense, for this one scenario, the all press is good press probably applies to it. Specifically because it's like, it keeps the audience interested. For some game devs, they don't release games, as frequently as others for their IPs, and it leaves a lot of the community like, when is this going to happen? When are we finally going to get something? And for some people, those different types of fan-made games are the thing people are looking for. They're like, hey, look, something fresh, new, exciting. In the case of Street Fighter and Mega Man a while back, that was a fan-made thing that Capcom ended up just saying, yeah, sure, why not? Because, they're not doing anything with Mega Man, of course. But
Battle Network.
You'll be waiting for a longer time.
Yeah, I will be waiting for eternity.
Oh, just wait till Mega Man 11 comes out.
Mighty Number 9 will change the game, guys.
I really hope that if they ever go with the voice acting again, they pick up that guy who was played Light.
Well, even
Cutting out again.
Wasn't Sonic the one that came out recently?
Yes,
that
I was going to
also,
bring that up.
Partly fan made.
Sonic Mania was originally a entirely fan made project, and Sega was like, "Whoa, let's pick this up and actually release it as an actual game."
It was just because the guy who did it like ported all of the Sonic games to PC or whatever, so it was like, oh yeah, well you can make a game if you want.
Yeah,
we trust you enough.
It was made completely by fans. No one that was actually at Sega worked on that, so. And it turned out being better than the game that they released a few months later.
Yeah. But that one doesn't have a gamer hat, so...
There's no gamer hat. Gamers. Only true gamers like Sonic Forces. I can create my own OC and have them do some RP with Sonic.
Hey, I'm Sonic's best friend now.
The other fan game I think of when I think of fan games is Mother 4. I don't know if you guys have heard of it, but it's a game that's been in development for years, funnily enough. It's trying to do a new entry in the Mother series, because it seems Nintendo doesn't want to do that. It doesn't even want to port over their older games in the series over to America, but I digress.
Because Nintendo
I'm not
gets money,
salty.
apparently.
So they're making a fan-made game called Mother 4, and I don't see a problem with the game in general because they're making a game, they're passionate about it, and it seems like they actually know what they're doing, and they want to make this game, and so they can be like, other people who enjoy the Mother series can enjoy this. The problem that I have with it, which I think they're rectifying, but the problem I have with it is they're naming it Mother 4, and when someone comes out with a fan game, I don't have a problem with them naming it something in the series, but with like a little tagline. But if you're naming it a major entry in the series, if, let's say, Nintendo were to come along and actually want to make a Mother 4, that shit would be shut down so fucking fast, it would be
you're
gone.
asking for a lawsuit.
Yeah, you really are at that point.
But I think they're changing it to like Mother Revelations or some nonsense. So they are changing it because of that, and I mean other fan games have done that too. We were talking about Yumi Nikki earlier and how it's getting a second game. There was a fan game release for that called like Yumi Tuki or something like that, like following the Banjo-Kazooie naming convention. And so when I saw that, I was like, that kind of bothers me a little bit, because what if they wanted to release a game and name it with that stupid naming convention, and all of a sudden we have Yumi Tuki. But so if you're making a fan game, just don't name it a major title in the series, and I think you'll probably be fine. I mean, like we saw with another Metroid 2 remake, they were just making the other game, and that's why they didn't want, him to release that, because they were like, well, we're about to make it. So, just gotta...
And that was like the dev staff was like, oh yeah, that's totally reasonable. We just had no idea you were making it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, there have been other cases of that where the game company has been making it, like, looks at Chrono Trigger, like 3D or whatever, that was being worked on, and then they shut that down, and it's like, they probably aren't working on a Chrono Trigger 3D, they're just assholes.
Yeah.
So,
I wanted that so bad.
Stuff like that, but it's unfortunate that it goes that way, but I think...
and like Pokemon Prism too, like that got shut down on Christmas.
Oh!
Yeah, and there's a lot of Pokemon fan games too, is the thing. There's not just
there are a
like
ton.
the
Like I play them a lot because I enjoy Pokemon fan games, good or bad. But
DAE Pokemon Apex.
I actually got a Pokemon ROM like on a cartridge just because it's a really bad one too. It's just like, this is really fun in a stupid way.
Well, yeah, but anyone else got anything?
Dynasty Warriors.
Anyone else got anything to talk about fan games in specific?
I don't really play unofficial games.
Yeah, I mean, you really put in a lot of thought to that sentence there, Grin. I can tell from the way your words spoke from your microphone.
I'm kind of busy.
Yeah, you're kind of busy. End sentence. Yeah, you. By the way, you cut out both of those times you talked there, so...
Yes!
That's why I was making fun of you.
Busy.
That's why I was making fun of you there.
Yeah, just like, I'm busy.
I'm busy. I'm snuggling.
Anyway, speaking of fan projects and the like, the Steam Workshop, and what are the good and bads for modding specifically? Feel free to take that away, Herbie.
Yeah, and this just sort of comes from like a lot of different games and like a lot of different modding. Because like when you get to games, say like the Fallout games, they add new stories, they add customizations, and then other games they just have customization cosmetics. And so it's like, what type of games are great to mod, and what type of games do you feel like the modding was a little bit unnecessary?
Don't even look at all the anime mods for Morrowind when that came out.
Does anyone else know this little hidden indie gem called Skyrim?
I've never heard of it.
God, I swear to God.
Released in 2011 by Todd Howard. He was a wonderful man. Beautiful, really.
I've never heard of it before, honestly.
You should everyone should just give sex to Todd Howard, because he just...
Wow.
Hide my Skyrim.
Can I dress in a Breath of the Wild outfit in that game?
Well, funnily enough, if you buy it for the Switch version,
wow,
they have it built in, or you could just get a mod probably off the like Mod Nexus.
Poor Average. Just like,
coming now to your fridge screen, Skyrim HD. Ooh,
Skyrim
I see
for
we're
Game
getting...
Boy
Have you
Color coming
ever
out
gotten
soon.
up after being done playing Skyrim on your Nintendo Switch, going to your fridge and going, man, I really could play Skyrim? Well, now you can.
Were you pouring that water, but all of a sudden now you want to be killing some mud crabs? Oh boy, do I have the
Have you ever just
perfect
wanted
app for
to
you.
play Skyrim forever? Well, now you can with the new Skyrim implant. Just stick it in your brain.
Welcome to
Please-
Skyrim for the Google glasses. Oh, I see you're walking around trying to look. Oh, excuse me. There seems to be a couple of bandits in your way.
Oh, that does actually kind of remind me of the Fallout 4 app.
I mean, that was a good app. I used it a little bit.
Oh, was that that little thing where like
No.
you did the
The Pip-Boy app.
yeah,
you
that thing.
Pip-Boy
Put the
app.
Pip-Boy on and you synced it with
you
your
had the
game.
little people in the cave, and then
Aye.
the cave grows bigger.
Oh no, that's
No, that's Fallout Shelter.
Oh, okay.
There's a
Okay, that's what
Pip-Boy...
I thought you were talking about.
No, there's a Pip-Boy companion app for the Fallout 4, and you can sync it with your game. And so you can have your Pip-Boy on your phone, and I actually have the peripheral that you actually put your phone into the Pip-Boy and like use it, so...
Whoa.
And
That's
I
actually kind of cool.
I have to compliment it. It works well enough. The only problem is when you use the Pip-Boy app, you can't pause the game when going into your Pip-Boy. So if you're using it and trying to pause so you can get health, sucks. It's bad.
Yeah,
Because...
it works best if you have a friend and you be like, "Hey," and they go, "Boop."
No, but it was fun, like, playing
That's
the
how you
game and then,
play.
like, looking down at your wrist and... looking down at your wrist and like actually hitting where I need to go and stuff, but like I said in the
Yeah.
combat, it was just like, oh, I need to heal. Oh, I'm dead. So,
That's how the true Fallout co-op experience.
yeah, I'm doing a Fallout co-op speedrun where my friend uses the app.
We should all get VR so that we can just.
Anyway, we were talking about Steam workshops.
Yeah. Some of it, like, I can understand for certain things that are really well done and pretty much necessary in a lot of experiences. Like,
Isaac, I feel like, is like one of the best
Isaac.
examples for modding.
and his mother.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's up there.
go on.
Basically, people can just make items for the game or
Yeah.
characters for the game or just extra areas in general to add to the game. And it's just really fun that, like, after you sort of know all the items or you feel like you don't really know what
Oof.
to do in the game at that point, you can just add a couple mods and see what all those items do. And so
Yeah,
it's basically...
But can you play a Moogle with
Yes.
the...
There you go, you can.
DAE Bredman McMilton is best creator of video games. He includes mod and actual game if it's good enough. Ooh.
Mhm.
Just something I'd actually like to talk about. Yeah, speaking of Isaac and the workshop and mods and stuff for that, Brad McMilton, creator of Meat Boy and Isaac, he, and I mean, like there's other people, but he's like the big figureheady boy. He oftentimes does, he looks at the mods and he says, hey, that's really good, and then brings the mod into the actual game with like full credit to the creator. And it's
Yeah.
all of a sudden it's in the actual game and not just a mod. So even people who don't download the mod have this item that this
It's
creator
super
made.
cool.
And so yeah, it's a pretty cool thing for him to do.
Yeah, but Bethesda kind of does that where they co-op the idea and then they sell it and they...
Well, no, they don't sell it
They
either.
don't
Just
sell it,
add
yeah.
it to the game.
It's just free additions
for free,
to the game.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm just saying that Bethesda themselves...
Oh yeah, well yeah. On the more cynical end of that spectrum,
Yeah,
Bethesda
Yeah.
does the same thing,
but
except a little different.
for it, and it turns out not nearly as good as the mod.
Yeah, you just get the mod.
I feel like that though, like that's one of the biggest selling like features of like Bethesda games is the fact that people mod them.
It can be. Sometimes mods do more to just make you play for like a couple of days and you quit, you start again.
Yeah, that's true. Like that's actually something that like a mods for a game called Starbound did.
Yeah, there's
Like there was just
Oh,
one
I know
mod.
about Starbound.
Sorry about
Yeah,
that.
there was just like one mod that was just called Fracking Universe, and it basically just like doubled the content of the original game. It like they added a bunch of new planet types and everything, and it was like just extremely crazy how much it actually added.
See, I was thinking of a mod for this little gem called Skyrim that released in 2011. You might not know it.
I don't actually. I don't.
Yeah,
know.
it's a game made by Todd Howard.
Oh my
It's
gosh,
pretty great.
Wow.
Yeah,
This is
the
basically just
Todd
turning into a
Howard.
Skyrim commercial.
Hi,
Nah, I
welcome
was
to the
thinking-
Todd Howard Power Hour. Today we'll be talking about.
Today we'll be talking about how big Todd Howard's power is in.
Did you know that Todd Howard's name starts with the letter T?
Did you know? Did you know that? Now you know.
Today, did you know that Fallout 4 is accessible for 8 different consoles?
But have you heard of Skyrim?
But have you heard of
Skyrim.
this game called Skyrim? It just works.
Have you heard of our Lord and Savior, Talos?
Hey, you seen that mountain in the background?
Cut out again, Emperor.
Talos, motherfucker.
You see that mountain in the background? You can go there.
That's High Rothgar.
Whoa.
It just works.
Why did the Dragonborn go to High Rothgar?
Because it just works.
He wanted to know what all the foos was about.
Okay. Well.
Hey.
Sorry.
Anyway.
My only one pun for like the rest of them.
Hey, I am always down for puns.
Well, we're winding down the show, and
But I guess you don't want it to drag on.
that's it, ladies and gentlemen. We're done. No,
That's right. We talked about Todd Howard for 30 minutes. That's what you get for listening all the way to the end. Is all the
Woo!
Todd Howard fan wank you could possibly
the
stop.
Todd Howard
And get a little bit
double
more.
power hour.
Yeah.
Welcome to the Todd Howard double power hour.
We're gonna have I Heart Todd Howard shirts
Yeah.
soon.
It's coming.
Talking about-
First we have to. It's coming, much like me. But first we have to ask Todd for his likeage on the shirt.
His blessing, yeah.
Hmm. We gotta talk to our Lord and Savior Todd.
Hopefully he'll be benevolent. Anyway, we actually have a topic not related to video games. Whoa!
Not related to Fallout 4 and Skyrim.
Shut up,
Now
Todd.
available on every
Jeez.
single anything.
Todd, we're gone. It's no longer the double Todd power hour, whatever we called it. All right, we've moved on. So, herp derpy.
Yes. Nah.
You brought up the only topic that hasn't been gaming so far,
Whoa.
which is the Movie Pass app. Is it good or bad for theaters?
Yeah. So, do you guys know what the Movie Pass app is?
Is that where you get like points for signing in or something like that?
No, it's a little bit different. Here, I'll pull up a
Isn't
link
it
for you guys.
the one where you can purchase your seat early?
No, not that either.
That's
So,
Fandango, yo.
so this is an app, and it's $10 a month, and
Mm.
theaters can sign up to participate in it, and basically what it does is you get one free movie a day. But you get unlimited
Oh.
free movies, but you get one movie a day, and that basically means that. And so you basically just go. You have to be within like 100 yards of the theater, I believe, and you basically pick the movie you want. You pick the time and showing of that movie, and then you go to the theater and you just show them your phone, and you have like a credit, and you have like a card that comes with it, and then they swipe your card, and if they have extra seats, they'll give them to you. And it's movie theaters sign up for it, and a lot of theaters near me take it. And it can be used for any movies, no matter how new or old that movie is. You just go in and then you swipe your card. This app does not want to load on Discord.
Well, that sounds interesting. That's not what I thought the thing was, but
Yeah, that's not what I thought it was.
it's a subscription service that gives you a free movie every day. It's pretty interesting. Movies in theaters. Let's see.
Yeah, it's just
Only
movie a
$8
day.
a month and one movie a day. Wow.
Yeah, and yeah, you basically just go. You pay
What
for
is
it.
this, Netflix?
And it's basically like a debit card. Like the movie pass just gives you the money when they swipe the card after you pick the ticket that you'd want from your phone, and it's just you get one movie a day for like $10 a month.
It looks like there's
Honestly,
no locations even remotely near me that give that. So
It's
that's great.
probably good for business because they're still drawing in customers. Because like when you go to the theater, you buy popcorn, you buy a drink.
Yeah, that is where
Oh,
most of the movie
shit.
theaters like income comes from, is concessions.
So I can because I usually go to like those dollar theaters and stuff.
The
Yeah,
problem-
and works in
still
a
make
lot of
bank
theaters
off of
near me.
that.
Like 20 theaters around me use this app. Like from the really really fancy ones to the ones that like show the movies that have been out for a really long time and are about to leave. Like,
So yeah, the one movie theater that's in my area actually does run it, which is surprising.
sorry, I cut out there.
Oh,
It sounds like a pretty good idea to me.
yeah,
and,
it doesn't sound like a bad idea, especially since movies are usually more than $8.
and
So like,
also,
if I
like,
watch one a month, I feel like it would be worth it.
yeah, like even if you just watch one a month, but I've like seen like just like 7 since I've like got this pass just because I can,
Mm.
you know. And it's like I get popcorn normally. Like I'm a person that like always buys like at least popcorn when I go see a theater, and the theaters don't technically lose money because when you buy the ticket, the Movie Pass app it sends the money to your card when you buy the ticket. So it's basically just like an extra debit card, honestly.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, it's super super cool.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it would be good for business. But then again, I'm not a professional anything, and
But I feel like
be my strong.
The thing is, you can also kind of chalk it up to what is that called? God dang it! Now I forgot. It's kind of like life insurance for the movie theater, in the sense that people pay you money and then they may or may not even go see that movie.
Yeah.
Until a later date. So that's kind of.
But yeah, and honestly, I'm actually just I might see Black Panther tonight because it's been a few days since the hype has died down, and that was a movie that I was interested in. And also, I can see really really bad movies too. Like I might go see that Winchester film because that's coming to one of the cheaper theaters around me, and I hear that movie is horrible, but I like horrible movies. And if I don't like it, I can just leave because I technically didn't pay the whatever amount a movie is.
Let's just be honest. You tend to like really terrible.
Oh, of course, I love terrible games and movies. I love cringe.
Like it's actually
like Final Fantasy 12 is your favorite game.
Ooh.
I actually have a folder of like just cringe videos I share with people just to see how far I can push them.
That's bad. I was gonna say I like myself bad games and bad movies, but
the folder
looking
has
up
like
cringe
221 videos.
What is wrong with you?
I'm a beautiful person. I just love to watch people in pain.
Well, this Movie Pass thing, it does seem really cool. We are not sponsored by them though, so I feel like you need to stop talking about them now.
I think they're sponsored by Todd
Howard. We're sponsored by Todd. So
well, Todd, we don't want to lose our sponsorship with Todd Howard and the beautiful indie game Skyrim.
Yeah, but really, when I get a disposable income again, that feels like the perfect thing to just pick up. I can see a movie once a month and still feel like I got my money's worth.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's pretty much it. Like if theaters around you do it, like I've had it for a few months now. It's worth the investment.
That's pretty cool. What I thought you were talking about initially was the fact that a lot of theaters in the north, specifically in the northern, like America, Canada, stuff like that, have started doing the system where they have, if you use like apps, I think either their specific website or like apps to get seats, you can order like specific seats in the theater or whatever. And you order like that specific seat, and you sit there, and like seats can cost different amount of monies depending on where they are. Like this one costs 12, this one costs 8 or something. And
yeah, that's actually really funny because in one of the previews for the movie, they were like, "You can join our exclusive movie club and watch a movie for $8.99, and then add another friend ticket on for only $8.99 more." I'm just like sitting like, "Wow, that's a horrible deal."
Do you get a free save slot with that?
No, you don't even get a save slot for the movie. Yeah,
no,
right?
Yeah, but that's just the thing that I've seen kind of up north as being a popular thing where it's like you can basically pre-order your seat.
Yeah.
And then pre-order. When you go in...
Does it come with pre-order benefits like extra armrest time?
Well, they're making...
you get an actual statue of the movie theater.
Oh, God, yes.
Well...
A trading card with the movie you're looking at?
Hey, I still have the Mew trading card that came out with like that Pokemon movie.
Yeah. They had the Hateful Eight. They had that phenomenal setup where you got to have a nice little card or a nice little fold-out centerfold thing with the characters. That was awesome. Really cool.
That's cool.
If you went to see it in the 60 millimeter film, that was really, really fun.
Oh yeah,
Well-
I'm actually like around where I live. Like we have like one of the only theaters with a 60 millimeter film. So
So
yeah, I go to there all the time.